in studio Dave Moore. Now, usually I have the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. You remember Randy Carter and Tassie Hirschfeld. But there is also another important source on Facebook called No More Turnpikes. And the volunteer who I think probably contributes the most to that is a gentleman named Dave Moore. Dave Moore is from Norman, but Dave, as I understand it, I don't think you are actually in the path of the proposed 3 turnpikes that go through Cleveland County.
Not directly.
Not directly.
No.
So how did you get involved with this?
Well, I got directly involved with it back in the 90s because the house that we were building out in East Norman was directly in one of the paths that was being proposed back in the 90s, because there was like 5 major paths they had narrowed it down to, and we're going to pick one of these, and it went right on top of our house. So I wasn't having that.
So that's when you and that was defeated.
It was.
I've heard different reasons.
Well, if you read Neil McCaleb's official explanation of what happened, he just decided they don't want it, we're not going to do it. That's kind of where we are now, except the OTA has decided to say they don't want it and we don't care. And that's the theme of what I'm kind of thinking about talking about tonight. Why the OTA does not care about citizens.
Okay, before we get into that, let's bring everybody up to date. I mentioned that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, through the governor, announced 3 projects, and without really consulting any of the people it was going to affect, as I recall.
Yep.
And in fact, Randy Carter said he woke up and read it in the paper that it was coming right through his living room.
Exactly.
And that was, what, 3 years ago?
That was February of 2022.
Yes. So here we are. And since that time, you all have been organizing, if I can say it that way. It is so interesting to me that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, I don't think they knew who they were messing with.
No,
and Stan Lord, was the attorney for a while that was representing, and then unfortunately he has passed away now.
Right.
By the way, an incredible part of your Facebook page has his last interview, I believe, that I watched.
Yeah, on the because there's a Pike Off OTA YouTube channel.
Yes.
And so if you go to youtube.com/PikeOffOTA, you will find, gosh, there's probably over 100 videos that have been put up there that really chronicle what we've been doing for the past 3 years and record a lot of the stuff that happened 26 years ago in the 90s.
And so we're going to bring everybody up to date tonight because you've been having more meetings recently and all that. But the thing that struck me most recently is that the Turnpike Authority did not realize that perhaps they needed to have permission to run a turnpike through the Lake Thunderbird watershed area until Pikeoff pointed that out to them. And then when they went to the Bureau to get that permission, the Bureau of Reclamation, I think it is, said, no, you can't destroy a watershed.
Yeah, the Federal Bureau of Reclamation owns Lake Thunderbird, which is still Norman's primary water source. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's owned by a federal agency. And no, OTA did not call them up and say, oh, by the way, we're thinking about doing this and doing that.
And no environmental studies. I mean,
zero.
I can hardly believe when I tell people this, I would keep looking at you to make sure that I'm telling this correctly. But 3 turnpike projects that cross through Cleveland County are on the project called, I have to say
Access. Oh,
I say Access Oklahoma.
Say ESC.
Access Oklahoma. And now this is the thing that has struck me most recently. When they realized they couldn't run it where they thought they were going to, and they've moved it west. They've moved it west. Now a whole new group of citizens in Cleveland County, and they're are waking up to the fact that, hey, I may have a turnpike coming through my house.
Well, we don't want people to get the wrong idea because the OTA still has not said where any of the new toll roads would go.
But they're not going to go on the
They're not going to go across Lake Thunderbird.
They're not going through Lake Thunderbird. They're not going on the east side of Lake Thunderbird because that is Native American land.
Yeah, you got the absentee Shawnees and the Potawatomis over there, and they're not having it.
And they say no.
Yeah.
And so for people that don't really get it, that love to try, I love the Kilpatrick Turnpike. I love, the driving to Tulsa. I love turnpikes. I love going 80 miles an hour. Why don't you want a turnpike?
Well, I think there are much better ways to achieve the same sort of thing. I think the biggest problem I personally have with that type of transportation infrastructure building is that it hurts too many people. The price is too high. And the way the entire process is played out over the past 70 years, it's played out like some kind of mafia movie.
Are you hearing this? 70 years?
70. OTA was first established in the 40s, and then in the early 50s, they actually started cranking out stuff and getting plans together, and then they built the Turner Turnpike. And
said it was someday going to be free.
The turnpike system, the entire turnpike system in the state of Oklahoma was scheduled to be paid off in the year 2027.
Oh.
2 years from now.
Yeah.
It sounded farther away when I would say that in 2022. 2027, that's 5 years from now. Well, it's not anymore.
Wow, that's before my kids graduate.
And it would have been paid off until the OTA decided to take on $18 billion more debt. When the Access Oklahoma program was first announced, it was a $5 billion program. Well, then they announced, last year? Oh, sorry, because of inflation and because prices have gone up, blah, 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 it's going to be $8.2 billion. But when you figure in paying off the notes and the interest and all of that kind of stuff, $18 billion. The new toll roads in Norman alone would cost $5 billion.
Just Norman?
Just that. So,
and meanwhile, we're expanding the Turner. We're expanding all kinds of things, and then we're going to put 3 new ones through Cleveland.
The price is too high in terms of the personal grief that Americans have to go through when they realize that their government doesn't care about them and doesn't bother them a whit to take away their property, their homes that they've been building for years.
Through eminent domain.
Yeah,
right?
they just
and
come.
It's not replacement cost, I understand. It's just
it's
value.
whatever they can get away with cost, basically.
Yes.
They say, we're going to make you whole. Well, that's not how it plays out in real life.
No.
The only people that actually get made whole from those sort of things are the ones that take the OTA to court.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which is thousands of dollars to hire an attorney to do that.
But you still come out way ahead than if you just take OTA's offer and run with it.
Okay, so the word of this clue is don't take the offer.
Hold out. Go to court.
And I understand you can actually deny them access to your property?
You can. Oklahoma law states that surveyors and companies like that are allowed to get on your property if they have your permission. You can say no to them. And surveyors are crawling all around Cleveland County right now trying to figure out, what is this a good spot? Is that a good spot? And they're strong-arming and intimidating property owners into letting them on their property, but people don't have to do it. Oklahoma law backs them up, and we've stood them down a few times.
Okay, one more distracting question
That's
I
okay.
have. You've driven I-35 lately.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. There's all kinds of traffic.
I drove at 80 miles an hour today.
Oh, my goodness. I don't want to know.
All the way from Norman to Edmond.
But so will any of these turnpikes solve the traffic problems on I-35?
The traffic problems on I-35 are generated by us. They're not caused by bajillions of trucks trying to muscle their way through downtown and go to Tulsa. They're by and large created by us, the people who live here, scurrying around and going to work and running our errands and doing what we do as human beings.
Going to the Thunder game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the answer is no, they will not fix the traffic congestion problems.
So why have turnpikes?
because it's a money-making deal for way too many people, bankers and contractors, and just the list goes on, politicians. Don't get me started.
Dave Moore is here. He is a volunteer. I really like his Facebook page that he provides content for, called No More Turnpikes. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, I'm going to let him do what he really came here to do, and not what I have distracted him into doing, which is to kind of bring people up to date about what in the world is going on with the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. I'm GWIN Falconer-Lippert. Dave Moore is here with me. He has a Facebook page that he contributes to called No More Turnpikes. And if you want to understand what is going on with eminent domain, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and citizens, especially of Cleveland County and other places around the state, you should go and look at No More Turnpikes or pikeoffota, or you can look at the YouTube channel. He is here with me in studio to bring us up to date. Dave, I understand that OTA, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, is having public meetings.
Oh, goody.
To help people understand why it's okay for us to take your property.
Yeah. Well, in order to understand why the OTA doesn't think that citizens actually count, you have to understand the word stakeholder, because they belong to what I call the cult of the stakeholders. And there's another video you want to watch on our video channel on YouTube, and it's called You Don't Count, OTA Director. And it's where I interviewed Joey Kelly, the director of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, for about 5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, because I attended a meeting there. But I asked him why only a limited number of people are notified about what OTA is up to and knowledgeable of their meetings. It all goes to this false, perverted notion of what a stakeholder is. And it's not just in Oklahoma. This stakeholder thinking is rampant in government agencies all around our country. So when I spoke to him, and this was in September of 2022, I asked him about, because they were having a meeting about the Indian Hills Toll Road. And where do we want it? And blah, blah, blah.
Indian Hills Toll Road. They're taking Indian Hills
Road.
Right there, that comes in there by Community Christian Schools. Right there.
It intersects I-35. They want to jump the Canadian River with a 7,000-foot magic floating bridge.
Back by Newcastle?
Going across the Canadian River, so it'll go into Newcastle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so turn Indian Hills Road into the Turnpike.
Pretty much.
4-lane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, everything's 4-lane.
Yeah, and one of these 80-mile-an-hour ones, yes.
And so I asked him,
where there are homes on Indian Hills Road on both sides. Yes,
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And businesses and all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
And so I asked him, I said, Joe, who decides who's going to be a stakeholder? Because only stakeholders were invited to this meeting where they were going to talk about this stuff. And I said, who decides that? He said, I think it was me who decided that. And who the meeting and invitation was extended to. It was extended to elected officials and local governments. And then he gestured to the crowd to show that Norman Mayor Heikkila was there, and our Director of Public Works was there, and Sean O'Leary, and County Commissioner Roy Cleveland. And he said, so you've got the county and the city, and all of the elected legislators in the area were invited today. We did the same thing for Newcastle, and we'll continue to do that as we work through other cities.
So it's the elected leaders?
Well, this contradicts the reality of what actually happened.
Okay.
Because the meeting invitation was not extended to all elected officials and local governments. In fact, I was contacted by Ward 5 Councilman Rashard Tortorella, who just heard about the meeting the night before. And he called me and said, have you heard about this meeting that's happening tomorrow? No. He said, well, I'm trying to get permission to go.
Permission?
I'm like, I'm your councilman. What do you mean permission? So he emailed the people over at the city of Norman and said, I want to go. Fine. And he said, Dave, you should go too. Well, so I and the founder of PikeoffOTA, Michael Nash, we both went.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that Michael Nash was the founder.
Yeah, yes. He founded the thing with a couple of other people. And so we were there. But then later, last year, we got an insider down at City Hall who's given us emails between government officials. And so he sent me a few emails.
So you have a whistleblower at City Hall?
You can call him that, I guess. But
yeah.
So Sean O'Leary discovers that Tortorella wants to attend the meeting, and he's not happy about it. And so he tells everybody else at City Hall that's in on the thing.
And Tortorella is one of the elected people?
He was the Ward 5 councilman, Ward 5 being East Norman, which would be hit the hardest by all of this stuff.
And he was not invited?
He was not invited.
Oh.
Nobody else on the council was either.
How did I miss this drama?
I found out.
Yes.
Nobody else. And so we show up at the meeting, and after the meeting, the emails are flying around, and they're going, what were Nash and Moore and Tortorella even doing there? That was weird.
But they're elected officials.
Well, and so I emailed all the members on the city council, and I said, did you hear about this meeting? Did you know it was even happening, and were you invited? And so one of the city council people asked that of city manager Darrell Pyle and said, was the city or the council notified of this meeting, and when, and who attended? Pyle turns around and says, I'm aware of a meeting that I believed was going to be a meeting between the OTA and the legislature to discuss several special studies. Now, if you look at the agenda that they sent everybody, there was nothing about the legislature. Everybody knew what that meeting was for. Darrell Pyle lied about it, and he lied to everybody else on the city council about what it was for. It gets deeper.
Well, it's a good clue.
So it was a blatant deception because the only people that the OTA wanted to know about this meeting was the mayor, the city manager, and the city engineer and director of public works, and that's it.
Was this meeting before or after the county commissioners overrode?
Oh, way before.
The council.
This was in September of 2022.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, this goes way back.
It does. And so...
And it really hasn't improved.
And so what we're doing is we're seeing the pattern of this cult of the stakeholders come together where they really don't want public involvement. They don't really want people to know what's going on. They just want to spring it on them when it's too late for people to do anything about it. So, about these upcoming phony baloney meetings that the OTA wants to have.
Yes, hold on. Hold that thought. Okay. If we're going to talk about phony baloney meetings,
yes.
That would be a good cliffhanger,
good,
so to speak. Dave Moore is here. He is a volunteer with No More Turnpikes, which is a Facebook page. He also is a contributor to the Pike Off OTA YouTube channel. And I would almost say investigative reporter of, a citizen, investigative reporter of really what is happening with the OTA and what they're trying to do to the city of Norman. One of the most incredible parts is the city council voted against it, and then the county commissioners came back and voted for it. Now, how does that work? We'll find out more when we come back. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. I'm GWIN Falconer-Lippert. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm GWIN Falconer-Lippert. Here with me in studio, Dave Moore. He is a volunteer with Pike Off OTA, No More Turnpikes, Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, and a media person, investigative reporter person. That's how I think of you, Dave.
Oh, thanks.
And if you want to know what is going on, go to their YouTube channel, and it will probably curl your hair, is what I would say. So
I just see stuff and talk about it.
Yes.
You know?
and fearlessly.
And there's a lot to talk about these days.
Well, there is. So now the OTA is having public meetings. That was way back when. Now they've come back around and they're having public meetings.
The meetings they had in 2022 were dumpster fires because they didn't plan on people showing up already knowing about the subject matter and asking good questions that they weren't prepared to answer.
Oh, wow.
I'm serious. It was a dumpster fire, especially the one in Norman, and the one in Moore was not much better.
Well, and are they taking clues from the Cleveland County Commissioners that met, voted, and then took public comments?
Well, yes, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
Because that's all part of this stakeholders cult of arrogance.
The free iHeartRadio app is
Hey, I'm on iHeartRadio. So they had their public meetings, which were they were horrible. And I personally went to both of them. There are videos of both meetings up online that you can see for yourself what happened.
And they don't mind you shooting these meetings?
Well, yes, they hate it. But because they were having their meetings at the Norman Public Library and the Moore Public Library, I could have walked in there with a Hollywood film crew if I wanted to.
They are public meetings.
That's right.
Now,
anybody can attend.
Now, but haven't they had a meeting somewhere that wasn't public and so no one could?
Well, at OTA headquarters, they kind of,
frown on
unless they have announced it as a public meeting, they're going to have a meeting in Norman that's going to be in a private venue. And so I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But they were failures. And these upcoming, I call them phony baloney meetings that they're going to have, they've already announced what they expect them to be like. And so you have to read what they said in their media advisory, which came out on April 21st. And
so is this a warning to who?
This establishes the house rules for what they're going to have their meeting about.
Okay, that's the media advisory. Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. And it says, OTA is seeking input from residents, property owners, and business owners, especially from those who may have not yet had an opportunity to provide input yet. So 3 years we've been providing, 26 years we've been providing input. They want to hear
from the new people. They're tired of you all.
And they're going to tell you here in a minute who those new people are. But those people attending the meeting will be asked to share information with the engineering design team about their area to help OTI modify the previous alignment. Because the previous alignment, as we discussed before, got thrown out by the Bureau of Reclamation.
Was illegal, yes.
So those are the new rules of engagement, and OTA has added a new category of people, business owners. They have also defined input that they're willing to hear. There's no mention, because they just want to hear about modifying the previous alignment. They don't want to hear any mention that the alignment was turned down by the Bureau of Reclamation because they wanted to ride roughshod over Lake Thunderbird. There's also no mention of the 26 years of input they've been getting from the public since 1999.
And no environmental study.
Not one has been completed yet.
But I did see a comment from them that said, we're so glad we've decided to save the Rose Rock Sanctuary. Did you see that?
Damn hypocrites. God, it's disgusting.
Well, I'm glad. I am so glad they've decided to save the Rose Rock Sanctuary, too. We can agree on that.
I ain't counting on it. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, my. Okay, keep going.
But the input to OTA for 26 years has always been the same. No turnpikes. The turnpikes are a bad idea, and we just plain old don't want them. And so if you don't want them, how are you even considering ramming them down the throats of the people of Cleveland County?
But this would imply that there are business owners that do want the turnpikes.
Oh, yes. So let's look at another statement that they came up with. Their OTA spokesperson, Terry Angier, she further defined the input that was acceptable at the meeting. The input we're looking for is new input regarding the area, regarding the property issues that they want us to share some information. How do we find an alignment that helps everybody, not the input of, we don't want this. So there you have it, the new rules of engagement. Opposition to the turnpike's existence will not be tolerated or even listened to. All OTA wants to hear is, where should the turnpike go? And maybe it shouldn't go anywhere at all. So
how do you fight that? If they're not going to let you disagree.
Well, I can't publicly discuss what we're going to do at their meetings that are coming up.
But are they trying to divide and conquer you?
Absolutely.
That if you're on 48th Street, I'm making this up, but if you're on ABC Street, I'm going to get you against DEF Street, because then both of you will be ineffective.
So now, in the transcript article, in the Norman transcript that came out recently, Terry Angier even developed further what they're going to allow. They talked about new groups such as development groups and chambers of commerce. The chambers are very receptive when we talk to them about this issue, she said. They have a say in this. So now we have unelected business groups that are going to take
your property and run a turnpike through it.
they're going to supersede the will of the people, the voters of Norman and Cleveland County, the Chamber of Commerce. Now, how does that happen? I've been watching what's been going on with OTA for 26 years, and I've never seen unelected economic development groups like the Chamber of Commerce be openly courted by the OTA to express their opinions about the toll roads. This is a new move for the OTA, openly advertising the turnpikes to business groups as a way they're known to make money. I believe it's a tactic of desperation because the toll roads have already been soundly rejected by everyone else. And now we're going to discuss people who work for the OTA that have financial conflicts of interest.
Okay.
So I wonder if this is related to the fact that Terry Angier, the main spokesperson for the OTA, and her family stand to personally benefit from the construction of the new turnpikes. Because her husband, Keith Angier, is the vice president of MacArthur Associated Consultants and has been since 1997. MacArthur Associated Consultants is an Oklahoma-based civil engineering and land surveying firm that just so happens to be a primary contractor for the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority in the construction of the new Access Oklahoma Turnpikes, including the new Indian Hills interchange at I-35 and the Tri-City Connector by the Will Rogers Airport. Up until January 31st of this year, Angier's company has collected more than $7 million in fees. They stand to make another $26.5 million when they fulfill their contract with OTA. Ms. Angier's son, Chase, also works for the business and has worked for him since 2016.
And is this all public record?
Oh, yeah. But you ought to dig deep to get it. It's all in the board of directors meetings that agendas, which are 200 to 300 to 400 pages long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have OTA staffers like Terry Angier openly lobbying chambers of commerce to pressure local residents to stop opposing the turnpikes, and lobbying governments for the toll roads to be built, while at the same time her husband and her son's business profit tens of millions of dollars to build the same toll roads. That, to me, demonstrates just how corrupt the entire toll road construction cartel is in the state of Oklahoma, and it needs to stop. Now. They need to stop. That's going to be my word. If I get to see Joe Kelly at one of these meetings, I'm just going to stand him and say, Joe, you got to stop. If you don't stop, you're going to get in a crap ton of trouble.
Now,
you've got to stop.
Do you all still all wear red shirts and stand up?
We did it a couple of meetings, and we might do that again.
It's very effective.
Because it's going to be in Norman, it's going to be at a private venue. They can legally deny access to whoever they want.
Right.
And I don't know if I wear my Groucho Marx glasses and the nose with the mustache so they don't recognize me. I don't know. But when you hold a meeting like they did, like they're planning to do in Purcell, which is at the Purcell Community Facility, anybody that wants to can walk in off the street and go in that meeting.
When is that meeting? The Purcell meeting?
That's at the end of the month. Oh, it's in my notes somewhere.
Okay. Well, let's take a commercial break.
Yeah, we'll look it up.
And you can look that up.
Yeah.
And you can tell me more. And I think I'm kind of speechless right now. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. I'm GWIN FAULCONER-LIPPERT. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm GWIN FAULCONER-LIPPERT. If you're just joining me, you have missed quite the information. Dave Moore is here. He is a volunteer with No More Turnpikes, or the Oklahomas for Responsible Transportation, or Pike Off OTA, or the Pike Off OTA YouTube channel. And Dave, one of the ways I reached out to you initially was I've noticed that some of the interviews I had done with other people ended up on your media page. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate you informing people about this because, I just don't think people can fathom that through eminent domain and the county commissioners and the people that want to grow Norman, that's the other thing I've heard, Norman, once upon a time, wasn't there a plan that East Norman was going to be a rural nature area with the watershed and all of that?
By the rules of Norman, the Norman 2025 plan.
Yes.
I was around when the Norman 2020 plan was put together. And the 2025 plan is not that much different. but it sets aside East Norman in some very specific ways about how it can be developed and what sort of things that can be built there. And a lot of people have staked their lives on that.
And their livelihood.
They decided,
generations.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
We're going to build our house of our dreams out there. It's going to be awesome. We're going to live in peace and quiet. Well, not so much anymore, because there is this development at any cost crowd out there that it doesn't matter who it hurts or what it does. If it makes money for them and their buddies, by God, they're going to try and do it. And it's development sprawl in unimaginable ways. There's been talk more than once of turning Lake Thunderbird into a vast entertainment district like Six Flags. Okay? Lake Thunderbird.
And what are you going to drink? That's your entertainment.
Coors beer. What else are you going to drink?
You got to have water for that, too.
Yeah.
Well, I did have someone say to me that it was very chamber-oriented, that they're worried about Norman.
I used to be a Chamber of Commerce member for years.
But they're worried about Norman, that Norman has no industry, has no tax base. And they're worried about the schools not having enough money. And Norman, people are moving to Oklahoma City because Oklahoma City is so exciting and Norman is not anymore.
Well, not every town can be Dallas, okay?
And who wants to be?
Well, but that I see a lot. I call it Dallas envy. Because Oklahoma City, Norman, they want to be like Dallas. And some towns just aren't going to be.
Well, with Dallas, you get the Dallas traffic.
Oh, boy.
And are you seeing what they're doing with the highways down there?
It's horrifying.
They're building those lanes you have to pay to drive in. So, have we started that yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but there's talk. I mean, there's talk to turn every road in Oklahoma into a toll road. That's been around for a while.
Right.
There are these national associations just think this stuff is awesome. And then you'll hear Joe Kelly say their main theme song, why, there's no such thing as a free road. Well, guess what, Joe? There is such a thing as roads that are paid for.
Well,
and
where are those roads? And what kind of shape are they in? That's the other thing.
I know. So the meetings, and I should say also that I'm not really in charge of the No More Turnpikes page.
Okay.
But I'm a moderator.
Yeah.
But it was actually founded by Allie and her brother, and they thought it up way back when. The reason why there's a pikeoffota YouTube channel is because Michael Nash asked me if I would do one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I said, I thought about it. That's a lot of work, but I thought, yeah, sure. Because I had the ability to do it, and I had the equipment, and capturing things for future generations to be able to look at is important to history and understanding how we got to where we are now.
Absolutely.
The meetings coming up are May 19th and May 21st, respectively, Norman and then Purcell.
Okay.
In Norman, it's going to be at a private venue. We'll see how that works out. In Purcell, it's going to be at the community center down there by Lake Purcell. So do you have to be
invited to come to the Norman meeting?
They are announcing them as public meetings. Okay. But again, they've laid down the ground rules before what's going to be acceptable to talk about and what's not. And I've watched people get thrown out of meetings before just for standing up and speaking their mind.
Yes.
And, they weren't hurting anybody. They weren't hurting anything. But because they said the wrong words, you're out. So if people want to join the cause. Public, not public is what I would call those meetings.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
But if they want to join the cause.
Sure.
What is the best way and become more informed? Because we're talking about this in Cleveland County,
right,
Purcell and all that. But Tulsa, the Gilcrease Turnpike, the Creek Turnpike. I mean, if people really started looking at what it took to get the Kickapoo, which was never voted on or never approved by the legislature. Do they even have to approve things anymore?
They're supposed to. But the approval process now is pretty much just a whatever OTA says goes. They're the smart people. They know what they're talking about. They're the engineers until we came along with, competing engineers.
Exactly.
Who knew what they were talking about.
You have such incredible leadership in this volunteer group. Professional people that know engineering, that know media, that know everything. I mean, I totally believe they underestimated you. And I still think the county commissioners have underestimated you. What can you do about the fact that they voted for the Turnpike and the city council voted against it? You may not know the answer.
I have something that I want to do.
Yeah? Do you want to do it tonight?
How much? I could. Well, at their meetings, the county commissioners, they have a section for public comment.
Yes.
I know I'm already on their crap list.
Sure.
But if they got to let me talk sometime, and I'm gonna get very spiritual with them, and I'm gonna tell them, you have sinned against the people of Norman. You have sinned against the people of Cleveland County by allowing the curse of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority to come in and infect our land. And you know what the Bible says about doing stuff like that? It's not pretty. So you guys, I don't know if it's too late or not, but you need to atone. You need to confess.
Is it too late for them to atone?
They could revoke that resolution anytime they want. But they are so much in bed with the big shot money guys and developers. Boy, we could have a whole show about that subject. But they are so in bed with those guys now. I don't know. Is it too late for them to go back on it? They could do it. I mean, look at the Supreme Court of the United States. They reverse decisions all the time.
Yes. And, one of the things that we've talked about, I think off air, though, is the fact that the OTA has, through eminent domain, taken property and then not used it.
Absolutely.
Destroyed. Yep. What was the camp?
It was a Girl Scout camp that was torn down to allegedly be used to build the Kickapoo, and they didn't even use the land. The Girl Scouts decided, we're just going to go right now, we'll get out of the way, and they got a pittance for their property, but then the OTA didn't even use it. And so they're constantly having surplus sales. About every 6 months, here comes another OTA surplus sale for land that they acquired that they didn't even use, which they turn around and sell for cheap to developers who come along and, they want to build businesses along. I mean, look at the Kilpatrick.
What about it?
And all the businesses that are there that just
they think that's
line it.
The heaven,
that's the holy grail
that's
for
Nirvana
them.
Right there.
There it is.
Yes,
yeah. They want every road in Oklahoma to look like the Kilpatrick.
Turnpike, right.
So, some roads just aren't supposed to look like the Kilpatrick. Some parts of Oklahoma are not supposed to have things built on them. We got to have farmland. We got to have free land that isn't all just, I moved
if we had free roads.
I moved to my 10 acres in East Norman because I was tired of hearing sirens all the time in town. Because it used to be a rare thing in Norman. You hear a siren, whoa, what's going on? Then it got to the point where you're hearing sirens like every 5 minutes. And it's like, this is
That's
bumming.
Called progress.
This is bumming. Yeah, the price of progress.
What is the best way to get in touch with your organization?
Get on the inner tubes.
Yeah.
And go to www.pikeoffota.com.
And we are saying Pike, P-I-K-E.
P-I-K-E-O-F-F.
OTA.com.
.com.
Or No More Turnpikes Facebook page.
Or go to Facebook and look for the No More Turnpikes page. And there's a there's a OTA Facebook page too. But Pike Off OTA. Sorry.
Yes.
But yeah, and there are all sorts of information resources. There's a big button there. Volunteer. Yeah. Push that button.
Oh.
And get involved and do something.
Or if you're out here in the hinterland and just want to be a financial contributor, there's a donate button.
Yeah.
And you're a nonprofit.
You millionaires out there that are always talking about how you're supporting these causes, we could use $1 million because it costs a lot of money to take on people like the OTA. And but yeah, just volunteer. Anybody, everybody, volunteer. We need everybody, no matter who you are or what you do. all of Oklahoma is being affected by this stuff.
Absolutely. Dave Moore and pikeoffota. I'm Gwyn Louise Culver Falconer-Lippert. I believe that gratitude is everything. Thank you for listening. Good night, everybody.